with us right now, the one, the only, Joey Donovan-Guido. Joey, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, Josh.
All right. You are found on the web at joeydonovan-guido.com, and that's GUIDO.com, the last name. Joey, I'm excited to have this conversation. You're an online marketing, I really thought leader. I mean, obviously you do a lot of speaking. You've got, you've written the book on the holistic guide to online marketing. So I'm excited to have this conversation. Go ahead and give us like your 411 of like who you are in the marketplace and what makes you unique and kind of some of the big problems that you solve.
Yeah. So the name of our business is KARTRA SEO Web Design. Mm-hmm. And we've been doing this for almost a decade. And really kind of what differentiates us is that we look at every single website holistically. And what does that mean is usually the first question I get. And holistically means almost like, I'll tell you a little story if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So it's almost like when you go to your doctor for your annual physical, right? And hopefully it's a good doctor, which means they're not just going to check like your left arm and your right foot and be like, hey, it looks good. Nothing's broken. We'll see you next year. Right. That would be a horrible checkup. You need somebody who's going to check you out from head to toe, physically. How are you doing emotionally? Do you have any pain? If so, where is that pain deriving from? You got to dig deeper than just the surface, right? And it's the same with your online marketing and your website. So what happens is a lot of times things are looked at in a very fractured way, right? My social media is over here. My website's over here. No one's really thinking about user experience or, a conversion methodology that is honest and just addressing people's pain, not trying to twist their arm to make them do something that you want them to do, as opposed to saying, hey, here's how I can help you if you need this help. So that's kind of what differentiates us, is that we're looking at a website and online marketing as a whole, really looking to make it so that it is addressed and that these online platforms work for you without stress. So they're sustainable.
Yeah. And I think that, when we talk about having your website work for you, one thing that I'm just incredibly sensitive to is the user experience, looking at something and saying, which is why I like looking at other people's stuff, because it's much easier for me to tap into how I feel and like what's coming up for me right now. What are my concerns? What are my fears? Where's my skepticism? What am I looking for right now? What do I want? What's my problem likely, in my business, why I think it's incredibly valuable, as a business to constantly be having those conversations with our customers and really learning from them what they want, not what we want them to know, because they don't necessarily want to know, that we're 105% better than the competition.
Yes.
It's like, who cares? Like, all I know is, my knee is hurt. Can you fix my sore knee? Right. Because that's all I'm worrying about, all I care about right now. And do you make it ridiculously easy for me to get to know you and build proximity and familiarity and and then eventually build up that know, like, and trust. And so talk about user experience for a moment. And I think particularly where you see where we are today in that, say, compared to like 10 years ago. I think awareness of our users is just so critical today. Yeah. And if we're not mindful of that and we're not proactively talking in their language and addressing what they're after, we're losing so much money.
Yeah, I agree completely. And really what you're talking about, and it's the same philosophy we follow, is that user experience, really what it comes down to is building relationships, and it's really like, if we build a relationship, Josh, right? And then I need what you do, or somebody I know needs what you do.
Yes.
That business is going to come to you. And I never had to try and sell anything because we've built the relationship and that trust comes in. So that's a really good question though. So the way I define user experience, just in case listeners aren't as familiar as we are, it's very simple. It's the positive, negative, or neutral experience somebody has on your website, your social media. Heck, when you're at the dentist, what is that user experience? When you're in that dentist chair getting your cleaning, is it hot? Is it cold? Is the interaction with the practitioner or the dentist positive? Are you feeling anxious? These are all things that move into the user experience. A lot of it's unconscious when we experience it. So the goal really is always to make that user experience as positive as possible. So we feel like people are building a relationship with us before they get to know us. And the way we do that is really through imagery, through how things are laid out on the page. If we have a call to action, is it something that is, like you were talking about earlier, pushy? Or is it something that's like, hey, if you need some help, we're here to talk. And we could talk more about that stuff if you want to dive deeper, but I want to answer your question as to like what UX looks like today versus what it looked like 10 years ago. And I'm seeing user experience as kind of like what SEO was a decade ago, where more people are starting to understand what it is. And that know that they need it. The issue I see is that 10 years ago, websites look like 10 years old websites. The user experience, how they were built, was not as user friendly. So what we've gone with now, instead of having something that may be aesthetically not as clean, we've got things that maybe look more clean now, but there's so much distraction. There's so much noise with pop-ups.
Yeah. Oh, please.
Yeah.
Joey, right now, here's an assignment. Anybody listening, if I go to your website, I don't know you from Adam, and within 1 second, you put up a pop-up that says, join my newsletter. What? Like, we are so not there in the relationship yet. Yeah. Like, I don't, that's one thing that bugs me. Like, it's dumb automation that truly is just being dumb. And it's a bad first impression. That would be one example. So again, assignment to anybody listening, go ahead and take that off. Adjust your settings, use something a little bit more intelligent that says, listen, yeah, we're going to put that in front of you, but maybe after you've spent a few minutes on the website or something like that, but not just join my newsletter. Right. That's not a compelling offer. Right. But what's something that I truly, truly want? Right. I don't know. You're the expert at this, Joey. That's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, no, this is a dialogue, first of all, and you're correct. I mean, there has been study after study that shows typically there's always exceptions to the rule. So I never say there's a gold standard. But typically things like pop-ups lower the user experience. And of course, the user experience and conversion are married. You cannot separate them. So it can actually lower conversion. And it kind of brings up the question, if you're a business and you've got this pop-up that says, join our newsletter, is that really the number one thing you want someone to do? And I joke about this. We had a local client, First Choice Dental, for years. We did the UX on their website. We did tons of SEO. And I always joke because when we started with them, they had like hey, get a free download, like top 10 ways to clean your teeth. And my first question was, is that really what you want someone to do? And of course, the answer was no. We want somebody to book an appointment. So hello, let's make that easy. Let's make that a call to action. That's a good user experience. That's not making somebody feel like, hey, I've got to sell a little bit of myself and give you my email address in order to get something.
That's currency. That's currency. If you're going to make an ask that early in the relationship, it's really like a dating metaphor, right? It's like, look, if you're on a first date, it's probably a little early to start talking about it getting engaged, right? Which, do you have the faith? And I know a lot of marketers, they just want to rush things. And very seldom is that appropriate, in my opinion. Like it's maybe give the option somewhere, somehow, if someone's really at that level, but again, if we're being thoughtful about where we are in this brand new relationship, what I like, Joey, and I'd love to hear your secrets, your kind of your secrets and the things that you're a big fan of, but I'm a big fan of video. Like I love short videos everywhere, explainer videos, client interview videos, videos of me playing with my dog so you can get to know who I am personally, stuff like that. I think it's about the best stuff that we can make available to our audience to connect with them. But I mean, that's just kind of my perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, no. And it's funny that you mentioned this because everything you're saying fits right into the methodology that we follow. And I actually have, it's not really an analogy, but it's kind of it kind of is. So I've developed something I call the introduction versus the first date. So it's very similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And Dollar Shave Club, not anymore. A few years back, they had a wonderful user experience. Every UX buddy of mine, it says that like this was the best user experience they ever saw on a homepage of a website.
Wow.
And it gave me this idea to call it, the introduction versus the first date. So what it used to be was when you got to Dollar Shave Club, on the left hand of your screen, there was a video that you chose whether or not you wanted to watch. Because you know what? Not everybody wants to watch your video. They may not be there to watch your video. But what was great about it, it was brief, and it was a great introduction to who Dollar Shave Club was and what they do, and it had a ton of personality to it, right? So there's my introduction, and then just to the right of that, and I probably have this memorized, was a great shave for a few bucks, no commitment, no BS, and right below that was a big button that said, do it, or do it now. Which is perfect. That's my first date. Hey, you already know I'm Joey from Cup SEO. Let's go out to dinner. Or let's go out for coffee. That's what that is for, right? If someone has been recommended to you, or if somebody has already talked to you, maybe they're coming to the site or they've heard about the product, great. You give them that opportunity right away. It's a great user experience. It's a great conversion methodology. There's no pressure to do anything. And for the other percentage of people who are just showing up there, sick and tired of paying like, 15, 20 bucks for razors at Target. Hey, let me introduce myself to you so you can find out if I'm the right match for you. And this covers 80+% of every single person who's going to show up at your website. It's a great user experience. It's non-obtrusive. It's non-pushy. And it's just, they've changed now. They do a lot of video on their homepage. They tend to do that video well because it's branding. It's very conscious of who they are and what they do. Can be very funky a lot, but that's kind of how they are as a brand, a little bit on the outskirts of normal. But you brought up video, and a lot of times video on a homepage, if it's not relevant or problem solving, it's just another distraction.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, there should be, why do I want to show this video at this point in the relationship with this person? Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was just, again, one thing I love to do is look at, you think about what Dollar Shave Club must invest into their UX, right? Yeah. And so if you want to see what, folks with, multi-million dollar ad budgets, have come to the conclusion on, I love taking a look at some just, beautiful UX. What have they figured out? What have they tested? And that gives you that should give you indications of where consumers' minds are.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And that is a great example. If you're looking at these high level, you have to know what to look for. Yeah. But if you're looking, you don't have to have that kind of a budget to do it right. You may not be able to do it as in depth as them. But that doesn't mean, following what your competitor does is the best decision either, because, I like to say back in the day when we were kids, they put asbestos in walls and ceilings, right? And then one day somebody realized, hey, this is bad for people. We better stop. And it's the same thing with these methodologies, with the pop-ups, with you are on a website and all of a sudden you start to scroll and all these things start jumping into the screen, right? Images, copy, 2 columns where your eye doesn't know where to look first. These are all things that are really common sense. If you look at it and say, hey, I'm confused, your customer's probably going to be confused. What often happens is there are web developers who are kind of more like artists who can code. And they get excited because, especially with WordPress, there's so much you can do so easily if you know a little bit of code. So there's all these moving parts. And like back in the day, in the 90s, right? In the early 2000s, these GIFs, right? You had these little moving animations. Mm-hmm. It's similar, but different now, because now you've got moving parts to the website, and all it does is make people feel like they are falling out of an airplane, right? Parachuting, and they can't see where the ground is. Have you ever been on a website where it just scrolls and scrolls and scrolls, and you're like, well, gee, how can I find what I need? And you're just like, wow, this is awful. And you hit the back button eventually. The designer's real happy with his design, but so what? That user is completely dissatisfied. So to your point earlier, is that you really need to understand what it is that your website visitor is looking for, both what they're struggling with, but also what's going to make them feel as soon as they arrive there, like, wow, man, you know, I feel like I know Josh already, and I haven't even said a word to him.
That's it. Yes. It is such a joy for those of my friends who are listening that do, they're doing account-based marketing, right? They're eventually going to have a conversation. Conversation is a part of the sales process. Like it's such a joy to get on a call with someone who goes, hey, Josh, I've watched all your videos. I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
Like it is just like, well, yeah, it's like the website did what it was supposed to do. My content did what it was supposed to do. If I can get someone to show up to a call and they're already a 4, 5, or 6 in terms of like their familiarity with me, now it's like, it's just the familiarity bias just helps things move forward, as opposed to, let's say, getting on a sales call with someone and you're like, all right, what's your pitch? I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. What are you selling? Like, no. Like, if I think about, a lot of like, ad campaigns I've heard about, and I look at their flow and it's like immediately they're just like, I know you don't know me, but here's my schedule link and let's talk for 15 minutes. That's scary, man. That's a big ask that you're doing. And that feels out of place in my opinion, but.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Hey, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, we as a business have we've never done PPC. We do it for some clients. They need it and it winds up giving them a great return. But we never do cold calls. We never do cold emails, because that's not, like you're saying, that's not how we want to start off a relationship.
Yeah. Joey, tell me about your book, where we get it. And I mean, it's the holistic guide to online marketing. It seems like something you'd probably want to dive into, because again, if we think about the entire journey, and if we think about it, from the whole thing, like from where they start from initial, what's their very first awareness of us, our offer, our brand, or maybe it even they're just, the awareness was not even us. It was just like, I have a problem. What led to them, initially getting connected with us all the way through, super high customer satisfaction and sending you referrals and that sort of thing. I guess that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about a holistic guide to online marketing.
Oh yeah, that's definitely part of it. It's definitely part of it. So so the book can be found on Amazon. And really, it's when I wrote the book, it was to make it so whether you were a top level executive and you wanted to kind of just learn more or hand it off to your team so they can improve their skills, or whether, you're someone who's a marketer and you just want to get better. You want to learn about this stuff, or you just started a business and you have no budget. You have $25 for a book and that's it. I kind of revealed everything that we do that I've learned over the past, almost 2 decades. And so you can get it on Amazon, and really what it's about is what you mentioned, but it looks at what is search engine optimization, what is user experience, what is conversion, why are these methodologies important? So it kind of gives you that baseline. And then how do I apply these methodologies to my website, my blog, and my social media? And it's really, it goes back to that kind of fractured approach. I had a lot of customers come to me over the years and they're like, I need social media. And you know what? Let's talk about that, but let's take a step back first and understand what you're doing before we talk about your social. And people get fixated on these little slim slivers of things, and they don't understand they're missing out on all this other stuff.
Yeah. No joke. This is it's a tome, 378 pages. So yeah, that it feels very holistic. That's great. Okay, good. So the holistic guide to online marketing, your website, SEO.com. That's CUPPA SEO.com. And then your personal website, Donovan-Guido.com. Joey, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.